Hello guys and welcome to this video. In this session we will be focusing on JWT vulnerabilities, and to begin with we will cover the fundamentals of JWTs, providing you with a clear understanding of how they are structured and how they are used. Then we will move on to more practical examples by exploring a JWT lab in Portswigger, where we will demonstrate the non-vulnerability in action. By the end of this tutorial, you will be equipped with the knowledge and hands-on experience to detect non-vulnerabilities using Burp Suite and JWT tool. Alright guys, let's get started. So first things first, what is JSON Web Tokens, or JWT in short? Well, JWT is in simple terms a standardized format used to securely send JSON data between systems, like between clients and servers. Furthermore, JWTs consists of three parts: a header, a payload, and a signature. Now, to get a better understanding of each part, let's navigate to JWT.io, which is a popular JWT debugger tool that allows users to work interactively with JWTs. Now let's have a look at this JWT. On the left side we have the base64 encoded version, where each part is separated by periods. So here we have the header, the payload, and the signature. This might appear like gibberish at first glance. However, on the right side we have the decoded version, which represents the JWT in JSON format. Now let's explore its components to get a better understanding. So the first part is the header, which contains essential metadata about the token, including the algorithm parameter, which specifies the cryptographic algorithm used to sign the token. Now this algorithm plays an important role in ensuring the integrity of the JWT. However, there is a potential risk if someone sets the algorithm parameter to none. This means that the token is neither encrypted or signed, making it vulnerable to tampering. Additionally, the type parameter indicates the media type of the JWT, which is usually set to JWT. The next part is the payload section, where the actual data is placed, and it contains various claims or information related to the user. Typical claims might include the user's ID, username, role, timestamp, and so on. This user-specific data helps in representing the user's identity and permissions within the application. The last part is the signature, which is a vital part of JWT. It is created by combining the base64 encoded header and payload, along with a secret key or private key depending on the algorithm used. The cryptographic algorithm specified in the header is applied to this combination, generating a unique signature. The server can use this signature to verify that the JWT has not been altered or tampered with during transmission. So now we have a basic understanding of what JWTs are and how they are structured. But how are these JWTs used in the client-server interaction? Let's have a look. So in the first step, the user authenticates with a username and password. Next, the server will generate a JWT, which it will send back to the client. Now the client will include this JWT in the authorization header of each request it makes to the server. Now when the server receives a request, it will check the JWT signature to make sure that the JWT has not been tampered with. In the last step, the server will send the response back to the client. Moving on to the usage of JWTs. JWTs are most commonly used for authorization, access control mechanisms, and session management. Now just by hearing this, I hope that I have awakened your hacker senses, because this means that JWTs are a very interesting target. In fact, exploiting weaknesses in JWTs can lead to detrimental consequences, like privilege escalation, account takeover, session hijacking, and much more. There are various types of JWT attacks. For instance, the JWT crack attack, the algorithm switch, and the none attack. Our focus in this video will be on the none attack. Now at first glance, a JWT with algorithm none might appear harmless, but let me assure you, it is far from secure. The problem lies in the fact that the server accepts tokens with no cryptographic signature, making them vulnerable to tampering and exploitation. Alright guys, let's do some hacking using Burp Suite and the JWT tool. To demonstrate the none attack, let's solve a lab on Portswigger. The lab is called JWT Authentication Bypass via Flawed Signature Verification. The description is as follows. This lab uses a JWT-based mechanism for handling sessions. The server is insecurely configured to accept unsigned JWTs. So to solve this lab, modify your session token to gain access to the admin panel at /admin, then delete the user Carlos. Alright guys, so the first thing we need to do is to log in using the following account, Wiener Peter. I have already done this step, and have already logged in. Alright, so the first objective is to capture a JWT to see if we can manipulate it somehow. So let's turn on the intercept. Let's refresh. There we go, we have already captured a JWT. And how do we know it's a JWT? As mentioned earlier, it's base 64 encoded. It consists of 3 parts that are separated by periods. So this is the header, this is the payload, and this is the signature. Alright, let's send this to Repeater to investigate a bit further. And let's maximize here. And in Repeater, we can access a really cool extension, JSON Web Tokens, that we can use to dig a little bit deeper. Alright, so let's open that up. Here we can see the JWT decoded. We can see some parameters like kid. We can see the algorithm parameter, which is actually set to RS256. So in theory, this is not an insecure JWT. It is actually signed with this algorithm. All right, moving on, we can see in the payload, we can see some parameters like ISS. What is important for us in this lab is the subject parameter, which is Wiener. All right, so before actually showing you any kind of attacks, I would like you to remember this JWT. As I mentioned earlier, it consists of 3 parts. Okay. Going back here, one additional thing I can mention, we have some options here that we can modify. So whenever we do any changes in these sections, we can select these options like do not automatically modify signature, or maybe we want to recalculate the signature, keep original signature, and so on and so forth. But the thing that is important in this lab is the alg non-attack. All right, so if we open it up, we can see that we have 4 variants with different capitalization. All right, so when doing this non-attack, you usually try each one out and see if any one of them works. All right, so before doing the actual attack, I would like to send this request and see what kind of response we should expect. So we haven't done any changes. We're just using the normal user, or rather the user that we have logged in with, which is Wiener. If we select render to see how it looks like, here we can see that we have logged in and we are in the homepage of this blog site. All right, so what can we do now? The first thing we would like to do is to try the non-attack. So we just select the first one and see what happens. There you go. It seems that it actually worked because we have been sent to the same page. We're seeing the same page as we did when we had the RS256 algorithm, which is interesting. This is indicating that the attack actually worked. And if we check out the raw request, we can see that the signature is actually removed. As you remember, I said it consists usually of 3 parts. Now we can see only the header and the payload and a period, but nothing after the period. Here we should have had the signature. All right, so this is very interesting. It seems that we have found a way to make the server to accept the algorithm none. All right. So as you remember, we want to access the administrator panel. So we know that the administrator has the username administrator. So if we change this one here, so the subject is now changed to administrator. So what would happen if we would perform this attack? Let's do that again. There you go. So if we send the request, there you go. Now we can see that we have a admin panel option. So what can we do now? Well, let's navigate to the raw section here. Let's copy this forged JWT. And and let's turn off the intercept for now. We want to reach the /admin, and then we turn on the intercept. Enter, we capture the request, and what we want to do right now is to replace this JWT with the JWT that we just constructed, so the forged JWT basically. So if we do that, there you go. Let's send it to the repeater just to make sure and see the response. Let's maximize this one here. So let's send this request with the forged JWT. All right. And we render it. There you go, guys. Now we have actually accessed the admin panel, which is really cool because this means that we can delete Carlos, right? So if we go back here, if we forward the request, turn off the intercept, there you go. We have Carlos here. So to delete Carlos, let's turn on the intercept again. Let's click on delete. There we go. And we change the JWT with our forged JWT. Let's send it and see what happens. All right. So we have successfully solved the lab, guys. We managed to remove Carlos from the block site by exploiting the non-vulnerability. Let's proceed to the next section. Alright guys, so now I will show you how to solve this lab, but this time with the JWT tool. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is to capture a JWT. So let's do that by turning on the intercept, refresh, and here is our JWT. And that is the only time we will be needing Burp Suite. Alright, so we navigate to the JWT tool, we enter the following. And now we paste the JWT that we just copied and press enter. There you go. Now we can see that the JWT tool has decoded the values and we can see all the parameters like the algorithm, the subject, both of which are very important for us in this particular attack. All right. But this is of course very good, but it's not enough because we need a way to modify the JWT. How do we do that? Well, if we are not sure, we can always navigate to the help section, so -H. And what we need to do here, we need to tamper the JWT. So let's try to find an option for that. So here we go. Here is the tamper, so -T for tampering the JWT contents. So let's go back here and add -T. Enter. All right. So now we can see that it is prompting us to select a field number. So the only thing we want to add is actually the subject. All right. So let's continue. And now we see the subject. So we would like to change the subject. So we enter number 2, enter. And now it's telling us to enter the new value. And as you remember, we want to change Wiener with administrator. All right, so let's do that. And then we press enter. Good. So now we are good to go, right? So we press 0 to continue. And now we have received a new JWT, the forged JWT, where we have basically replaced the subject and instead of Wiener, we now have administrator. Okay. Before proceeding to the next step, let's copy our JWT and save it somewhere. There we go. I have a document for that. The only reason I have this document is to make it easier for you to understand what we're doing. There we go. So what we have done up until now, we have changed the subject, as you remember, to administrator. We have generated the forged JWT. Next, we need to define a target URL. All right. So what is our target? It is, of course, this URL right here with the /admin. So we copy that and we put it here. Let's just collect everything we need before we create the payload. And now we need to define our request cookie. So how do we do that? Well, first and foremost, let's just to be sure, let's turn on the intercept and refresh just to have a look at the cookie. This is the format it should have. So cookie and then session equals the JWT token. All right. So what do we need to do? We need to add a cookie that has the following structure. Session equals and our JWT token, right? There we go. This is the format it should have. All right. So let's navigate to the help section again to see how we can define a request cookie. So we navigate to the help section with the -h. And as we mentioned earlier, we need a cookie. So we have two options really. We can either have a cookie with the RC command or a header, authentication header. But in our case, we need a cookie, so we need the -rc command. So if we go back to the document and we add the following, -rc, there we go. So this section is done. And in the next step, we need to define the exploit type. And as you remember, our attack is the non-attack. So let's see how we can do that. We can see under the -x exploit, there is several attacks. One of them is the algorithm none. This is the one that we are interested in. So it's -x and then a. All right, so let's go back to the document. So it is -X and a. All right. So now we should have everything we need to create our attack. So we need the target first. And did we talk about what command we need here? I think we did, but let's take it again to be sure. In order to define a target URL, we need the -t. So we add it right here, -t. All right, so let's begin to create our attack. Python JWT tool, and then, yeah, I've already added the -t here, as we can see. There we go. Here we have the target URL that we are attacking. And next we need the cookie, which we have right here, RC session and the JWT token. There you go. Good. And the final step is to add the type of attack that we are interested in. And in this case, it is the non-attack. All right. So this is exciting, guys. Let's see if this works. So let's navigate back to the JWT tool. Clear. There we go. Everything seems to be fine. All right, guys. So this actually worked. We can see that the payload with the lowercase none worked, the green line here. And the other variants with different capitalization did not work, as indicated by the red lines. This means that the server accepted the JWT with a lowercase none and processed it as if it were a legitimate token, without performing any cryptographic verification. Now, this vulnerability allowed us to tamper with the token's content and thereby posing a significant security threat. Alright guys, that concludes the video. We've covered JSON Web Tokens and explored the non-vulnerability using both Burp Suite and the JWT tool. If you found this information valuable and want to support my channel, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.